When was the last time a movie made you cry? And not just a few dignified tears, but like a good, solid, ugly cry. I bet you're thinking of The Lion King. Now, this is funny, but some of us really do have a sad memory of a cartoon lion who never existed. And that heart-wrenching moment when Mufasa dies is the result of over 3 years of hard work by a team of extremely talented people. Professionals at manipulating emotions, using facial expression, tone of voice, narrative, and music, using the most advanced technologies of their time. In the 23 years since The Lion King has been released, information technology has been improving exponentially, getting faster, smarter, smaller, and cheaper. Now everyone has access to powerful tools of manipulation that can twist our common sense of reality and hijack our brains. Let me explain. For a long time, human beings have been recreating and representing reality. From cave paintings to cameras, as technology improved, so did the representations. And this innovation curve has grown surprisingly steep. In the 1860s, we were using pre-film animation devices like the zoetrope. And by the late 1890s, we get the first 50-second film that was said to have terrified spectators at its first screening. And by 1927, less than 40 years later, we had film with sound. The advent of digital technology not only accelerated the pace of innovation, it exploded the availability of access. Anyone with a computer, even your friend's sister Sally making daily vlogs, could access sophisticated filmmaking technology that would be the envy of people working professionally less than a decade earlier. And as the form factor of this technology shrunk to handheld devices, camera and computer in one, the tools of filmmaking were democratized. With social media as a public platform, we began to use the basic tools of Hollywood: acting, selective editing, camera work, makeup, wardrobe sets, and locations, to construct elaborate fictional narratives about ourselves, myths about our lives with ourselves as the hero. But constructing our lives in a theatrical way may be corrosive to our sense of reality. The march of technology hasn't stopped either. Last year, Star Wars Rogue One broke new ground by digitally resurrecting Peter Cushing using incredible visual effects to play Grand Moff Tarkin in what the Guardian's Catherine Shore described as a digital indignity. By definition, Cushing could not consent to being in this film. The moral dilemma presented by this should be obvious, putting legal questions aside. As troubling as the ethics are, the technology itself is terrifying. A film studio was able to convincingly recreate the on-camera performance of a man who is no longer alive. His voice, movement, expression, and manners. And this isn't the first time we've seen some form of virtual characters who are actually dead in real life. In the late 1990s, Fred Astaire danced in a computer-assisted number with the Dirt Devil. And in 2013, Audrey Hepburn returned to the screen 20 years after her death to advertise a chocolate bar. We've also seen this technology be used when an actor dies in the middle of a film production, like in 2015's Furious 7, when Universal Pictures combined previous footage and computer-generated imagery to complete Paul Walker's role after he died in a tragic car crash. This trend has Hollywood actors rushing to exert control over how their characters and images will be portrayed once they're gone, in fear of being manipulated in ways they can no longer consent to. Robin Williams, who committed suicide just a few years ago, put his likeness in a trust for the next 25 years to avoid exactly this. And there may come a time very soon where the average person has to consider this too. Recently, the podcast program Radiolab investigated new technologies that have the power to distort our view of reality itself by making our own eyes and ears unreliable. With facial remapping technology, it's possible to create a version of anyone's face that can be manipulated just like in the movies. There's also audio software like Adobe Voco, which they call the Photoshop of speech. And if you've seen what Photoshop can do, that should already give you chills. According to Adobe, Voco lets users type sentences that are read aloud by any voice given to the program in a 20-minute recorded sample. And they're working really hard to get that time down, by the way. Now, I'm from the creative film world, where people pay us to lie to them for entertainment. But as demand for these reality-distorting technologies increases in my crazy world, the cost comes down for everyone. If technology that lets users create convincing fake audio and video of other people becomes ubiquitous, these media that have already proven to be untrustworthy will become disastrously untrustworthy. If the technology only scales to the point where film studios, huge PR and advertising companies, and governments can afford it, well, that's also a disaster. A few bad actors with their hands on this could do a lot of damage, especially if the rest of the media landscape is left otherwise undisturbed in trustworthiness. But it isn't all bad. Take VR. After the splash made by the arrival of virtual reality headsets just a couple of years ago, VR has drawn a lot of attention, but adoption is slow. A Fast Company report last year stated that the VR industry is still about 6 to 8 years away from hypergrowth, or a tipping point in adoption of the medium. Now, I know that people are still throwing up, but rather than concerned, I'm actually very optimistic about this technology. I love the capacity VR has as a vehicle for empathy. Film has always given audiences a way to experience the lives of other people, and has the ability to create real social change. Stories told through augmented and virtual reality give us a chance to literally see the world from the perspective of another person, opening up incredible artistic and documentary possibilities. Imagine if you could live the life of a soldier for a day, or know what it feels like to be a citizen of a war-torn country. If used in the right ways, these lifelike virtual episodes could help us better understand what it means to be a different race or gender, or have different abilities. And we may take these profound experiences into consideration before we comment on social media or vote in the next election. The combination of technology and fiction can really be amazing for our brains, as long as we're consenting to the experience. So what do we do about our nonfiction world? I think we need a movement for radical truth. Much like we had a movement for consumer rights and protection in the 1960s, we need a grassroots movement demanding the safe legislation of reality manipulating technologies. We need smart laws, and we need to vote in smart legislators who will understand and create them. We should demand knowledge on these issues from those legislators and ask them how they plan to address this. There is no way to halt the progress of this technology or reverse its course. The market demands are too strong, and the technical people in my world are wizards at tricking eyes and ears. These technologies are only going to get more sophisticated, more powerful, and faster. And one thing I just can't stop thinking about is how I am going to explain this to my kids one day. When they ask me what to believe and who to trust, and one day I hope to have a better answer than I don't know. How will these technologies impact their sense of reality and the truth? How will we help them detect what is real and what is not? And what will the influence of these tools mean for their education, their relationships, their sense of self, their understanding of what's right and wrong? With computer-generated spectacles pumping through the box office, along with fake news, clickbait, disappearing stories, edited ads, photos, videos, and reality TV coming at us through multiple devices and channels, we need to reevaluate our behavior. And remember that fighting for the truth is really just a good habit. It's a way of living life, a way of seeing the world. It's an attitude we all need to have that the truth is the most important thing. And by continuing to ignore this moral dilemma, we are contributing to the problem. But fighting for the truth isn't just about catching liars. It's about rewarding honesty too. And we all need to demand more honesty from each other about how our lives really work. For instance, I didn't write this speech, not alone. My partner is a writer, and we worked on this together. It was born out of many conversations and saw many iterations. But all you will ever hear is the final version performed by me. And I'm telling you this to make another point. Everything we share on social media is edited, and it's warping our understanding of what real life is actually like. We used to compete with one another for credibility, and now we compete for attention. Our likes, clicks, shares, tweets, upvotes, it actually really matters in an era where the amount of time and attention we give to digital content is a currency itself, even if they're lying. And to argue that we just need some sort of truth-detecting software won't make this any easier. Someone is bound to find a way to hack it because it has become so much more profitable to keep us in the dark. But I believe we have the power to change this. Our demands shape our markets, so we need to demand the truth. Thank you.